She's not looking. I take the knife, I shove it down the front of my pants, and I cover it with my shirt. I can remember thinking, so I'm like, they're gonna jump me. I wouldn't go in the stall because if I went in the stall, then I'd be cornered. So I go to the urinals. I go to this urinal and I'm standing there with the knife in my hands. They come in and dude shoves me, and when he shoves me, I turn around with the knife and I just start swinging.
One thing, I always wanted a gun just because I didn't need a gun. I wanted the gun. So I traded my speakers for a shotgun. And I never even took that thing out more than twice. I just kept it under my mattress. What did you get your gun for? Did you feel you needed it, or did you just want it?
I needed it. Around 95, 96, Richmond at that time was like becoming the murder capital of the US, if you go back and look at it. And a lot of my friends were being shot. A lot of my friends were dying. And being out in the streets, you had to have it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You had to have it. Like the corners we posted up on, the streets we walked down, you had dudes that were out there looking to rob people. You know what I mean? You had dudes that were fighting over territory, and gunfire was an every night thing. I'm not gonna say gunfire with me involved in it was an every night thing, but the places I was at the moment, there was never a night you were out there and you didn't hear gunshots. Like the people around me were losing their lives. I had a homeboy, rest in peace, Bobby Ramsey, who at the time had just been shot in the neck, and at 19 years old was paralyzed, completely paralyzed. At 19, went from being an
Yeah.
athletic, bulky dude to laying in a bed with a hose in his throat because he'll never walk again. And he never did walk again. He died 10 years later from complications of being in a bed, and getting bed sores and stuff. But no, the gun became, once I found out the power that a gun held,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Especially with the robberies and stuff, and that it didn't matter how big you were. Everybody respects the guns. People would talk this and that. Oh, he put the gun in my face and I slapped it. If you do something like that, either the guy that's holding the gun is a bitch, or there's something off up here. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? When you're staring down the barrel of a gun and you know the man on the other end of it's not playing games, it changes the whole aspect of things. And when the guns came into play, that's when things got serious. But we were always, one thing I can say about where I come from, for us that knew each other, like we were always quick to put the guns down. We'd rumble. There's been
Yeah.
many times it's like, hey, you take mine. Here, hold this. And dude, I got a problem here. Hold this. And we'd rumble. And then when it's all said and done, we take them and tuck them back in. But then as we started getting older, like the fighting started to go out the window. The scared dudes weren't going to get beat up. once,
Yeah.
uh, once, it's like, you're not going to punch me in my face, have me walk around with my eyes all black. I'll shoot you in your face.
Yep.
And the gun it just became an extension of me. Like all my older pictures, I'm sure my mama's got them and other people they've got them. All my older pictures, like I know, but not I don't own guns now. I wouldn't do nothing like that now. But in all my older pictures, even as convicted felon, I was always flashing guns. You know what I mean? The Polaroid pictures, you got pictures of me with AKs, SKs, different caliber handguns. I kept it. When people are dying, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
to die out here. I don't want to do anything to anybody, but I don't want to die. Not to mention with the robberies, kind of just part of the costume.
Yeah. It's part of the tools.
I've done robberies before where the gun wasn't even loaded. I bought a gun
Yep.
one time that didn't even come with a clip. A magazine. The gun was so old that it didn't even have a magazine, and didn't even have any bullets. But when you're being robbed, you don't think, oh, that man's got an empty gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
How
it was
easy
crazy.
was it for you to get a gun? Were they very accessible?
Super, super. Virginia is a state that's there's gun stores everywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you want a gun, it's easy. You got an ounce of weed? Okay, you bet. Let me call such, 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 such. And it's easy. I was dating a girl one time, man, and I was 19, and she showed up at my house one day and she threw me a Crown Royal bag. And she was beefing with her dad, didn't really like her dad. She was like, here, found this in my dad's garage, and I opened it and there was three pistols in it. You know what I mean? Like guns were just they were everywhere. Virginia has gun shows and gun stores, and back then at 18 years old, you could purchase a pistol. So we'd
Yeah.
have girls go buy them for us. You know what I mean? Hey, go in the store, give me this gun, and she'd go in and fill out the paperwork, and 30 minutes later, she'd hand you a pistol. Next week, you tell her, hey, I don't like you no more. You know what I mean? And she goes on about her business, and here you are strapped up with a 45 that's in her name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You tell her, hey, report, hey, and it's right. I usually tell them, hey, report the gun stolen. Somebody stole it from me. So then she, hey, somebody stole the gun out of my car. So now the gun's listed as a stolen weapon. So if something does happen, it doesn't come back on me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you're running wild. You're 18 years old. Are you living on your own? Or are you still living with your mom's at this
No,
time?
I've been gone from my mom's for years.
Okay.
I left earlier to the situation with my dad. When that situation had happened, I had just come back and was staying there for like a week or two when that whole situation happened. But I had actually left about a year prior to his passing. I was like 16. So I've been on my own. At 18, I'm already in and out of jail. I remember going to jail and just thinking this isn't much different than the detention home. It's really not. I mean, you had more freedom in the detention home. They allowed you to go outside. Once you hit jail, there's no outside.
Yeah.
I mean, the most we might do is like go outside and there'll be like cage on top of a brick surrounding, and you can look through the cage at the sky. But at 19, I'd been in trouble a lot prior to that. But at 19, I found myself like in a bad situation. We went from here to Philly. I had warrants in Virginia, and my best friend at the time was from Philly. So he's like, let's go to Philly. We go to Philly, and Philly is a whole different monster. We show up in Philly, and it's just fight after fight after fight. And this is daily. And Philly's another place that's very big on guns. Like you don't go out out in the streets of Philly walking around thinking you're gonna do this and do that without a gun on you. Somebody's gonna kill you. So we end up I've been there 5 days, man, and we end up robbing a dude. And we're all messed up. We're smoking boat, PCP, drinking lean, popping pills, like smoked a lot of weed. And I've been drinking liquor all day long. Like by like 2, 3 o'clock that day, I was smashed. I was hammered. And so we're out in Southwest off this main strip called Elmwood Ave, and we're just standing there, me, my homeboy, and another one of my homeboys. And this dude comes walking down the street out of nowhere wearing a blue jean jacket. And he's like, I got that boat, I got that wet, talking about PCP, right?
Mhm.
And where we're standing, there's like an alley beside us. And I was so messed up, I didn't even plan on doing anything to do. Like, I'm seriously like, I'm one step away from throwing up on myself. I'm so trashed. I'm just bent, just standing there like slumped, the Xanax, or I'm damn near in blackout mode, right? And the next thing I know, dude that's with me is like, grabs dude and slings him over the alleyway. This is the dude that was just walking down the street. There's people all out here. So I went from just standing there kind of messed up to now I'm on top of this dude with my two homeboys robbing him, running his pockets. Well, they got what's called the jump out squad. And these are cops that just post up and they jump out. They had the Jeep Cherokees back then with no doors on them. Like they would ride around and just boom, jump out on you. You know what I mean? Athletic ass cops that will chase you down in street clothing. So they jump out and they get us. I take off, I run. We all cut in different directions. I cut through an alley, and I'm so fucked up that I can barely like run. So I'm like, all right, I got to get the gun off me, get the drugs off me, get everything I got on me off me, because they're gonna catch me. I'm too
Yeah.
inebriated to keep running. So I squat down beside the dumpster. I remember I found a can. I shoved all the shit I was selling inside the can, the Zans and different drugs I had packaged. I took the gun, and in the side of the dumpster was like the spot where the forks go in to lift the dumpster up. I took the gun and I shoved it in there, and I come running down the alleyway. And as soon as I come out the alleyway, it's a female cop. She's standing there on her walkie-talkie, and I guess I startled her because when I come around the side of the alleyway, she looked at me and went boom and hit me right in the bridge of my nose with the walkie-talkie. And that, I mean, I was full momentum running. When she hit me, I just slid. Boom. So they
Yeah.
take me, they roll me over, they cuff me, they get me up, they get the other two dudes, and so they take me and they book me. And I hadn't been locked up in Philly before. Being locked up in Philly was they took me to a place. First, I sat at in the Pine Box, 55th and Pine in Southwest Philly. They've got their own little regional jails that you can stay at for 72 hours. After 72 hours, you're going to a correctional center if you don't bond out. So I have no bond. I have warrants here in Virginia, and they take me to CFCF, and that place was just it was off the chain. As soon as I got there, I'd been there, and I was still in the little transition part. When you come into jail, you've got to go into like almost like a quarantine setting, and then
Mhm.
they take you from there after like a week or so and put you in your main housing unit. In this stage, you get like your blood work done, your TB shots. They do all that, and then they classify you according to your crime and send you to where you're going to go. But I remember being in there, and in the first week, I seen a dude get stabbed in his neck with a pencil. And it was like a Saturday morning. We were watching Beast Wars, the like animal version of Transformers
Yeah.
on TV, and dude got to arguing. behind the TV. This dude had sat down and turned the TV on, and when you set something, if you've got the remote and you set something with that remote, like your shirt, your towel, your coffee cup, it tells the next man not to touch it. Well, this dude goes to his cell and he leaves a couple items laying with the remote. Another dude comes over and moves his stuff out the way and picks the remote up, takes back and changes the TV. Now, I hadn't been in here a week. I looked over, I seen him do it because I was watching this and I didn't have the remote. Somebody else didn't. I seen the channel change and I looked over, and this ain't the dude that just had the remote. And I already know how it goes. So this dude comes back, confronts him about it. He's sitting there and he more or less just eggs him like he's not talking, like, and just goes back to changing channels. The dude's like, oh, starts running his mouth, and the dude just ignores him. I watch this dude go over to his cell. Now I'm on high alert. I've been doing time since I was a kid. I know this isn't just a situation where this guy's just going to run his mouth and walk off. So I'm watching him. I watch him go over to his cell, and I look at the dude sitting beside me, and I'm like, this dude's got to be, he's got to be slow. He's got to be stupid. Like he took his eyes off this guy. This guy's not playing. He goes over to his cell, and he walks right behind us, and he walks behind the chairs and walks behind the dude, just stabs him in the neck. And this dude hops up. He thinks he punched him, right? He hops up and he's like, maybe, and he reaches to where he thinks he thinks like the dude punched him. He reaches
Yep.
and he grabs his neck, and there's a pencil, like, and number 2 pencil hanging outside of his neck, and he grabs it and he pulls it, and when he pulls it, that bitch just shot a stream of blood, and he grabs his neck, and dude goes into just whooping his ass, and I remember just sitting there like looking at the blood everywhere, and I'm like, oh, I fucked up. I got to get out of here, man. So I ended up pleading out on that 11 and a half to 23 months. Did my time, got out, and it was just the same cycle, man. Right back into lockup.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
A pencil to the neck.
yeah, man. It doesn't
John
sound.
Wick.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It doesn't. It's. I mean, like you see the movies, but it's like when you really see it, like it's the movies can only do but so much. They either underdo it or overdo it.
Yeah.
That shit'll change like the way you treat people.
Yep.
I ain't never been one to walk up and pick up the remote unless I wanted beef with that guy. At 19 years old, I seen him get popped with that pencil. I was like, all right, let's take a note. Do not mess with TV remote. You know what
Fuck yeah.
I mean?
So what broke that cycle for you of getting incarcerated?
I got tired.
Yeah.
I got tired, man. My last sentence was 10 years. And that was for a robbery and a malicious wound. And you know what's crazy is like to the judge and to the prosecutor, if y'all would ever see this, thank you. Like y'all knew what I needed. When I was originally, they sentenced me to 40 years. Give me 20 years for the act of robbery, 20 years for the act of malicious wounding. They suspended 20 of the malicious wounding, 10 of the robbery, leaving me 10 to serve. And I remember my mom was coming to see me. And I went through these phases where I just wanted to be left alone. Like while I was in prison, I just kind of felt like this is my world. If I let y'all into my world, or I call too much, or I get too many visits, it takes my mind off of what I have to do to survive and stay alive in here. But I was like 7 years in, and my mom came to see me. And we're sitting in the visiting room, and they can buy you like chips and stuff out the vending machines and sodas. And I love my mom. Shout out to her, man. So we're sitting there and we're talking, and she's like, "Baby, you did it. You're almost done. Like, you ready to come home?" And at this point, I still got about 2.5, 3 years left. And I remember looking at her and telling her no. And she like kind of looked at me like, "What?" She was like, "Are you ready to come home?" And I'm like, "No." And she was like, "What do you mean? No, you should be excited. You've only got a couple years left." And I said, "I'm not ready." Because I knew I was still in there doing shit I shouldn't be doing, still fighting. I still had all this anger inside of me, right? At this point, I hadn't resolved the anger. And I'm like, no, if they were to let me out today, I'd be dead or locked back up within a week. This is crazy to say. It's been over 7 years and I still got that mindset, but I've come to terms with what it is, right? And so they end up shipping me from there. I didn't ask for a transfer. I wasn't supposed to be transferred. They shipped me to a prison that was based around therapeutic community behavioral modification. I am a career criminal. You take one look at my record. This guy has been in and out of the system since he was a child. You know what I mean? My record states that I need this program. And this program is aimed at changing the way you think, making you be able to recognize what's going on. It's aimed at turning you into a productive member of society.
Yeah.
That's when I would find out that why I acted the way I did, and a lot of it stemmed from my father, stemmed from the anger that I held in, and the things that I was taught as a child. That even though I know they're wrong, I still do them. But I remember, man, I was sitting in a cell and I was looking out a window. And this is right before I transferred to that place. And I was looking at these deer in this field. And meanwhile, we're locked down. It's nighttime. We're waiting on this big shakedown to come through. We haven't been out of our cells now in several days. And it's just, I remember I can hear all the chaos going on in the background, toilets flushing, guys yelling back and forth from cell to cell. And I'm looking out this window and I see these deer. The prison's got these tall spotlights, and then they got all these raised wire fences, and that light illuminates like it's like a light that would be at like a baseball stadium. You know what I mean? Everything's bright
Yeah.
around that light. And I look out at the woods and I see these deer standing there in the woods, right? And it was something about seeing those animals be free. And I remember thinking to myself, and I've told other people this, like looking at those animals, I'm like, wild animals have more freedom than I do. They have more control of their lives than I do. And I kind of just stopped. Everything kind of got quiet for a minute, and then I really focused in on all the noise around me. I looked around at the cell, and for the first time, I think in my whole entire life, it set in on what I'd done to myself. My dad didn't do this. Society didn't do this. This was all a choice I made. I put myself here.
You're taking accountability.
I was. So they shipped me, and I started fighting. When you get to a new prison, a lot of times you have to prove yourself. Like it
Mm.
doesn't matter. This other place I've been in almost 8 years. Everybody knows what I'm about here. Time and time again, I haven't ran from nothing. I never told nobody. I stand on my own. I've won fights. I've lost fights, but I've always fought. Now I get to this new place. I have to do all that again, and I did. And they weren't used to it. Like where I was at, this new place was aimed towards juveniles. The average age there was like 15 to 22. Now you had older guys, but this was a TC place. Most of these guys had drug addictions, substance abuse problems. I didn't know. I never would have told you that I had any type of an issue, but I did. I was an alcoholic. I popped Xanax from the time that I first took them at 15, 14, however, all the way up until my arrest. Like but I didn't think I had a problem. So after fighting a bunch of times, the counselor would come to my cell in the hole, and she would sit beside the door. And she's a big, heavy set woman named Patricia Collins, and she would talk to me because I'm like, yo, fuck this. Ship me up off of here. Give me to a max. I'm not with this shit, man. I'm not with this program. And so she agreed to get me a job working in the warehouse, driving forklifts, so I didn't have to be in the building all day doing these groups. And she would just randomly come get me. She saw something, and she said that to me one day. We're sitting there, and I was like, why do you care? Why do you keep bringing me in this office? Like I told you, I don't want to be here. I'd rather just send me to a supermax, man. I don't care nothing about this. And she's like, you're gonna do good things. You're not a bad person. She was like, you need to understand that you've done bad things, but you're not a bad person. She's like, I've had a lot of conversations with you. And then so we really started digging. Like she started digging. Let me rephrase that. She started digging into my childhood and the trauma and coming to understand the root of everything. And things really changed. And I don't know if this will work for anybody else, but it worked for me. She told me, she said, I want you to write everything down. She said, I want you to write a letter to your father. Let it all out. And she was like, and then I want you to go find somewhere that's quiet. I want you to sit down and I want you to read it out loud and then destroy the letter. And I just kind of looked at her like, bitch, are you crazy? Like, I'm in prison. I'm in my 30s at this point, my mid 30s. Not far from going home, within a year or so of going home, finishing up a 10-year sentence. And so I remember her telling me that, and it kind of just kept playing. And I started writing letters several times, and I would be like, "This is stupid." This is now that I'm back in my housing unit. I would ball this paper up, and I'm like, "This is stupid." So then one night, it's lights out, and I'm sitting there, and I pick up the pad, and when they would turn the lights out, they leave these red lights on. It was a dorm environment, bunk beds everywhere. They'd leave these red lights on in the ceiling so that your officers can see the other officers walking through, so that if there's a fight that takes place, it's dark enough to sleep in there, but the red light gives you enough light to see what's going on. I'm sitting there and I start writing this letter. And the next thing you know, it's like one of those movies where you see somebody's hand is possessed and it just starts writing. I just start writing. There's no real thought going into it. It's pure emotion. And I'm pretty much telling him, like, I hate you for what you did to me. I hate you for what you did to them. And I just keep going in and I go in and I go in and I'm writing, I'm writing, I'm writing. And I put the letter away. After I wrote the letter, several pages, I folded it, I put it inside the book. I didn't really know how I felt about it. It made me it made me deal with something that I had been hiding for a very long time, which was how I felt, my emotions, the things I went through as a kid. So I go outside and I bought some tobacco from somebody. I had a lighter and I went out there and I went down to the end of the field by myself and I was smoking a cigarette and I had that letter in my pocket. So I'm like, all right, I'll look around on this day in general. In Pacific, there wasn't a whole lot of people outside. So I was like, now's the time. So I go sit at the end of this field and I pull the letter out and I read the letter. And I don't get no further than the first sentence and I just start crying. Like tears just start pouring down my face, right? And so I finish up the letter and I sit there, man, and I cry for like another 20, maybe 30 minutes. It felt like forever. I cried, right? And then boom, I destroyed the letter. And I remember like I was walking back towards the building and I was looking up at the clouds and everything. And by now, they have what's called night rec. It's getting dark outside. We'd have rec from like 6 to 8 p.m. And I'm looking at the clouds and it's starting to get dark. And like everything just kind of clicked. Everything clicked. Like this doesn't have to be your life. Stop playing the fucking victim. Stop blaming your dad. Stop blaming the way you were raised. You did this. You chose to do this. Your life is shit because you chose shit. You grew up in shit, but it didn't have to be this. You chose this. So I go back in, man, and I'm sitting on my bunk and I'm really starting to take in everything. Like it's finally setting on me that in my mid 30s, I've given my whole life away. I've pissed my whole entire existence away for nothing. I've hurt people that didn't deserve to be hurt. I've, cheated on every female that I ever dealt with. I didn't know what loyalty was. I didn't know what love was. I'm loyal to the dudes that'll kill me in a heartbeat, but disloyal to the people that really care about me. So I was seeing this girl at the time, and at this point, it's October 2013. I got out July 10th, 2014, and she comes to see me, and she's got these bandages on her hands, right? And I'm looking at her hands. I'm like, "What's wrong with your hands?" And I've been telling her my plans of when I got out. And, but she could tell I've changed. Things are changing with me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Everything's changing. And I'm looking at her hands. I'm like, "What's up with your hands?" She's like, "I burned them at work." I'm like, "Let me see your hands." And she's like, "Nah, it's nasty." She uncovers her hands. She's been shooting up, and her hands were infected. So I said right then and there, I said, "I can't go home to her." You know what I mean? It's a no-brainer. If I want to stay free, I can't go home to a trap house.
Yeah.
Her house, I'm talking to other people on the phone. They're like, "Yeah, her house is a trap house. Everybody goes there." And rest in peace to her too. So I prayed, man. That night, I remember I prayed, and I was like, "God, just give me a chance. Give me a chance. I knew what I wanted to do with life. I knew I had all these dreams, aspirations to do. I said, just give me a chance. Whatever it is I'm supposed to do, let me know. Just send me a sign." So I'd already decided I was going to break things off with her. And she was around prior to me going to prison. She just kind of she stayed in the background. I wouldn't be in a relationship with her because I didn't want to be that guy that, oh, I got a girl at home and she's laid up with Jody. So I would never
Yeah.
play myself like that. Like, nah, I ain't having no girl. You do what you do. If you want to come up here, come up here. If you don't, I don't care. So I called my mom's house, and this is after that visit would be the last time I ever saw her. And I told her, I said, this ain't gonna work, because I was supposed to go stay with her. You are actively shooting heroin. You have heroin addicts at your house. Like I'm gonna spaz out and throw people out, and it's just not a good look. I can't come home to that after 10 years. So I called my mom's house. Me and my mom, she's my rock. At the time, she was one of the few people that stayed around during my bid. And I called my mom. Actually, my mom came to see me that weekend, and my sister came, my brother's wife came, and their newborn baby. And my brother was locked up. So she's asking me what's going on. She's like, "You look depressed," and I'm like, "Old girl shooting dope." She's like, "Yeah, everybody knows that." And I'm like, "So I'm not gonna be with her." She's like, "Oh, whatever." So then she tells me, she's like, my brother's wife is like, "Hey, my friend thinks you're hot." I'm like, "Your friend? How does your friend know anything about me?" She's like, "Well, we went to your mom's house the other day, and your mom's got a picture of you on the fridge, and she saw your picture, and she wants to talk to you." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." I'm still going through the whole. I'm kind of upset with this girl and me. I mean, it's been 10 years of off and on while I'm locked up of just even
Yeah.
just the friendship, saying goodbye to the friendship and all that. It's kind of got me my feelings. So I'm like, that's what's up. I didn't think twice about them mentioning this girl to me. So I called my mom's house and my mom's like, here, I got somebody wants to talk to you. So she puts the woman that is now my wife on the phone. And I'm like, hello. And she's like, how you doing? And we get to talking and she's like, look, I'd like you to call me sometime. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, let me run in my bunk real quick and get a pen and piece of paper. So I'm like, hold on. So I tell my homeboy, hey, hold the phone for me. And he's like, what's up? I'm like, I struck, right? So I run to my bunk, I get a pen and a paper. I'm like, all right, what's your number? What's your number? And she gives it to me. And so I start calling her. And I'm not gonna lie, when it came to the phone, like if I wanted to use the phone, I'd be bully as shit times. Like I'm gonna get on the phone. If you got a problem with it, whenever I get off the phone, we'll fight about it. But I'm gonna use this phone until I'm done. So I would call her a lot, and I wasn't big on using the phone like that. But I've got this beautiful woman who she would come see me. She smelled so good. She sprayed the letters with perfume, and I could really be myself, you know. And I started telling her my plans. I had a son that was 2 when I left, that was 12 now. I told her, I said, I want to get out. I want to get my license. I want to get custody of my son. I want to stay far away from everybody I know from that past life. I want to own a business. I want to own a house. I told her all these things I wanted to do, right? And she told me the same thing my counselors told me. She's like, that's a lot. Like, and I like even to sort of what I'm doing today with you two. Like I had all these dreams. And she never once told me, like, she said, that's a lot. Don't let yourself down. But I believe that you'll do whatever you say you're gonna do. I never had a strong woman. I never had a woman that said, you're not going to do that, that would put her foot down. My wife is a strong woman. So I get out and I told myself, I said, I'm not going back to the hood. I'm not going back to the neighborhood. I'm not going back around those guys. Like that's where most of us fails. We get out and we return to the same circle of people. We get
Exactly.
right back to the lifestyle, the family, the loved ones that held us down. We run straight past them. The only ones that have been there for us the entire time, we run straight past them into the people that didn't call us. I mean, that didn't pick up the phone, that didn't send us a dollar, that never checked on us. That's who we go to hang out with. So I get out and I go with my girl, and we're staying at my sister's house. We stay there a couple weeks, and then I move in with her and her roommate at the time, and I go to work the day after I get out. I can find a job working for a carpet company, a flooring company, and I immediately start stacking money. I want to get us a house. And the difference in this time and every time before was I got out July 10th, I married her November 1st. Within 30 days of getting out, I got custody of my son.
Wow.
Within 90 days of getting out, I got my first house. Within 6 months of getting out, I got my driver's license. I'd never had a driver's license. 34,
That's
35 years
awesome.
old, I'd never had a driver's
Check, check,
license.
check.
Within 9 months of getting out, I started my company. Within, a year and a half of getting out, we're moving out of the projects and into our first home. Everything that I said I was going to do, I did it. I, I had my second son. And in having my second son, I had my first son, but I missed out on his entire life. He was 2 when I went in. I was not a dad. I can't take the title and say I was a dad when I left because I wasn't. I was a street dude that had a child with a chick from the neighborhood. I had a baby mama, but I wasn't a dad.
Yeah.
With my son being born, I realized I had a gift. I'm a great dad. And a lot of that goes back to the whole being raised by a bad dad.
Mhm.
Now that I've got this little boy, I've got this baby, I'm looking at him, and all I can think is I'm going to be the dad that I never had. And all that played a major, like, I couldn't imagine doing a day. I did not care about my life. I didn't care about life, death, incarceration, none of that until I became a dad. Once I became a dad, it was like, you stop and you look around, you're like, how could I ever leave this for one day? I couldn't imagine him waking up tomorrow and going, where's dad at? Or him running to the window and waiting for me to come home. And I've got 10 years to do, or I'm that the car's not gonna pull into the driveway. Because every day at the same time, we've even adopted a 4-year-old little girl. Every day my kids, they run to that window. Where's daddy? Where's daddy? Waiting on me to come home. How would I look going out here and breaking the law and leaving them standing at that window? How would I look laying down tonight knowing that my child is going to cry himself to sleep because I'm not there? I couldn't do it. Being a dad is my gift. It's my superpower. I
bro.
was, I was taught like that's what you don't do. I was
Yeah,
taught you don't hit your kids. You don't hurt the people that love you. If you love somebody, you tell them. You hold the ones you love near and dear, and you cherish them and you show them. And that's what I've been doing. The company with the construction company, everybody thought I was crazy. Like they're like, dude, you can't just start a construction company. It's not that simple. But I did. And for the
fuck yeah,
longest time, we struggled. I couldn't get the numbers right. We're eating like, I mean, we're struggling. We're always getting past due notices, and this is about to get cut off. This is about to get cut off. But I would still, and I picked up tattooing while I was in prison. So I would work this job. I would do construction all day, and when I first had a job before I started working for myself, I would work for that company all day, and then I would go tattoo in the projects at night. But I wasn't hanging out in the projects. I was there on business. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm up in here, dudes are bagging up, and I see stuff, but I'm like, nah, they trying to trade. I'm like, I'm strictly here to make money, man. I'm the tattoo man. I would
yeah,
tattoo, boom, I get out of there and head back home. I take that money and pay my bills. There was many times dudes try to trade me, hey, take this 8 ball, man, and I need you. No, 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 because that's gonna draw me back into the game. I don't need that. I'm just tattooing. So I started a construction company, and for about the first 9 months to a year, we struggled so bad. I didn't know. I knew what I was doing labor wise, but I didn't know how much I should be charging people.
yeah.
I finally got the numbers right. The company started turning good profits, and from there it was off to the races. And then with the YouTube thing, one day I was sitting there and I was watching YouTube, and I don't know what it was. At that last prison I was at, the counselor used to make me get up and speak. Every now and then she'd make me get up in front of the guys and speak. And the guys really like they took to me talking. They
You're a
enjoyed it.
good speaker. You're a good
Right.
speaker.
Mhm.
They enjoyed it. And I was nervous because I'd seen them like disrespect other guys when they would speak. You know how it is. You don't want to get up there and guys be laughing and joking because I still have this temper. You know what I mean? I feel like if y'all laugh and joke, I'm gonna get out of character up here. But I remember the first time I got up and I spoke, the room was quiet. Like I noticed that in between me speaking, like I'd stop, it was dead silent. This is usually when guys would get up here, you couldn't even hear the guy talking because the guys sitting in the chairs would be so loud and disrespectful that you can't even hear what the man's saying. But when I would pause, it was definitely quiet inside this door. And there's 50, 60 men sitting there in chairs listening to me tell my story and just talk on whatever topic. And they're really locked in, right? And I remember her telling me, she said, you should look into being an inner city youth counselor, something to do with kids, or something to do with speaking. She's like, I've watched it. She's like, you captivate the room. You take over the room when you speak. People listen. She's like, you're very well put together. You this is something you could be good at. And I'm thinking at the time, I don't know anything about YouTube. I don't know much about social media. When I left, MySpace was just starting up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I left, I had a chirp. So
Sure.
I mean, when I left, I had a chirp. I come home, there's galaxies and iPhones. And so I remember I was sitting in my garage, man, and I had the Windows phone. This is before like the Galaxies. Galaxies were big, but I had a Windows phone. I don't know if
Yeah,
you remember those.
yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and I knew I had I'm living a better life. I'm in no way, shape, or form at this point, after getting out of prison, involved in any crime. I want nothing to do with that. Like I said, I've had my son. I'm married. We have the home. We have the business. We have nice cars. Life is good. I can't complain. For the first time, like I'm not playing the victim role no more. Who cares that I grew up poor? I'm not poor no more. Who cares that my dad beat me? Ain't nobody beating me no more. I'm not playing the victim role no more. Now I'm taking accountability and I'm gonna fix this shit. What life I've got left, I'm gonna make the best of it. I can't go back and fix my life, but I can make damn sure that my kids don't ever have to grow up like that. And that was my mindset. So I turned the camera on one day and it didn't do anything. I didn't have any interviews. I didn't go on any channels. I didn't. And I just started recording. Nobody was really watching. And I drop another video, 6, 7 views. I didn't care because every now and then somebody would comment and say, "Hey, that story helped me. Hey, thank you." And just in knowing that I wasn't looking to get rich, I wasn't looking for fame, I wasn't looking for any of that. I just wanted to get my story out and help somebody. I felt like
Yeah.
my call was to help someone. And I would get these comments, and my channel at the time's got 150, 200, 300 subscribers, but I would get these comments on how my video helped them, or they chose to not do this because I would tell them, you do this, you're going to get locked up, and in the moment you get locked up, there's nothing you can say or do to get free. It's too late. Stop now. And people started listening. So I continued to tell my stories, and I would sleep one night, and I had a certain alert that my phone would make if I got a message from YouTube. I do not have that alert on now because my phone would not, what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of messages an hour now. But I'm dead sleep. And I told my wife, I said, something's gonna happen. And she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Everything I've told you I was gonna do, like, came to fruition, like it happened." And I was like, "I don't know what it is about this YouTube thing, but something's going to happen." And she was like, "Yeah, all right." And there was even times she's like, "You need to get in the house and help me with these kids. Like, you're out there making them dumb videos." I'm like, "All right." So I would, but I'm laying there asleep one night, and I just dropped the video, where I talked about this dude Brian that killed this man that had raped him in prison. And he came in with a couple years on a drug sentence and turned it into a life sentence because he killed his attacker. And I'm dead sleep, and my phone makes that alert that it would make when somebody left a message on one of my videos, and then it made the alert again, and then it started making the alert so much that I thought the phone was glitched because it was like, you turn your phone off and you leave it off for a day or so, and then you turn it on, all the messages come pouring in. It was doing that right in front of my eyes, and it would not stop. And I'm like, so I power the phone off. I'm like, the phone's broke or something. You know what I mean? And then I turn it back on and it continues to do it. So I go to my YouTube analytics. I'm like, the fuck? And it's literally like watching like time fly. Like I'd refresh the page and it'd be like 5,000 more subscribers. And I'm like, the fuck? I'd refresh the page, it'd be 5,000 more. I'd refresh the page, it'd be 5,000 more. And I'm like, and I woke my wife up and I was like, um, and she's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. Something's happening. She's like, what? I'm like, I don't know. So I didn't let it go to my head. I didn't change up my content. I just kept doing what I did. Didn't do any interviews. Just continue to do what I do to this very day. And here we are.
It's amazing, bro. It,
Phenomenal.
it, it's fucking amazing. You know what, man? The way you were describing about your love for your son and being a father, it's put me to tears because you described exactly like how I feel about my kids. When I look at my kids, they're my life.
Oh
They're
yeah,
my
absolutely.
everything. And if I could give you a fucking fist pump right now, I would, bro, because I respect that
Yeah.
so much from other men that take that pride like that.
Well,
It's
I did
amazing.
something. I did something I think that anybody that's locked up needs to do, and be true to it. When the day I got out, my oldest son Isaiah, he was 12. He did not know that I was getting out. He thought I was supposed to get out the following day. So we wanted to surprise him. So his grandmother has him. She had pretty much taken custody of him. His mother has her issues or whatever. But so she meets us at an Arby's, and my wife is driving, and we pull up. Now, my son has never seen me as a free man. He has, but he has no recollection. If you would have asked him, his first memory is of me in a red jumpsuit with shackles on and a long beard because I'd been in the hole for almost a year at this phase when his first memory comes up, right? And so I sneak up beside the car and I crouch down beside the car and I run up to the passenger door and I open the door on him. Here he sits, this 12-year-old kid that has gone his whole life without a father, who is wanting nothing more than a father. His mom is battling her own demons. He's being raised by his grandma. And I started to communicate with him a lot. And I promised him, I said, if I make it out of here, I'll never leave you alone again. I'm sorry that I let you down. I'm sorry that I put the streets ahead of you. I'm sorry that I didn't see your importance and your worth, but it will never happen again. So I open that car door and I pop up on him and he looks at me and he's like, he knows me, but he's not, his brain's not registering that that is his dad and that I'm not
Yeah.
in a visitation room and that he's not at a prison, like he's in an Arby's parking lot and that's his dad. I'm like, come here. And I snatch him out the car and I hug him. And so I'm like, you want to go with us? And he looks at his grandma and he's like, is it okay? She's like, that's your dad. Yeah, you can go with your dad. So I remember we sat down at dinner that night and I reached across the table and I took his hands and I said, I love you. I said, and I'm telling you, I promise you, I'll never leave you again. And he's like, it's hard for him to believe because he's been
Yeah.
let down so many times. Not just by I let him down when he was small, but while I was gone, he's been let down by everybody in his life to the point that he's being raised by his grandma. So he's
Yeah.
heard it time and time again. And I took his hands and I held his hands. I said, I love you. I'll never leave you again. I'm sorry. You grew up without me, and that's my fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You're a great kid. I'm here. And it wouldn't be long after that, I got a bigger house, and he was living with me when we were in the hood, and I showed him. I showed him. And my son is a great man. He's about to turn 21. He's never been in trouble. He looks like me, but he is the exact opposite. And I made my life. I was very selfish. Criminals are very, very selfish. Sometimes we do things and we justify why we do them, but we're very
Yep.
selfish. We don't think about how what we're going to do is going to affect our mother if we get locked up, and how now she's got to dig into the bill money to try to make sure we eat. Or we don't think about how it's going to affect our kids or anybody around us. We just think about what we're doing in that moment. And the moment that I made my life about others, all the good came. And the moment
Yeah.
I stopped being selfish and I started thinking about, well, if I do this, how would this affect them? Like I had a problem with drinking when I came home. I drank for the longest time. And that was me trying to like battle my demons, or so that was the excuse I made. When in reality, it was just me being a drunk.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where my son said he could see it coming. He's like, Dad, you're gonna end up in trouble. If you don't stop drinking, you're gonna end up back in trouble. And so I had that talk with him. I had that talk with my wife, and that was November of 2021. And they said you have to decide, like, do you want to continue to be here for us, or do you want to end up back in prison because your drinking's going to end you back up in prison? I went over to the sink. I poured the bottle of Jack out, and people talk about quitting things. I'll tell you this: you'll quit when you want to quit.
Yep.
I think that's why so many people fail at addiction and they fail at quitting, is because you'll quit when you really get tired and you really want to quit. I'd never quit before because I never really had the desire to quit.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went from
Exactly.
drinking 7 days a week to pouring the bottle down the sink and hating it. And I'm one of those people that once I say I hate something, I'll never touch it again.
Mm.
And I haven't. My life is I'm a family man. I'm a man that helps others, a man that tells a story. I'm honest in the say I think the things I say. And I just want what's best for everyone. I don't want anyone to walk in my shoes. I want people to know that there is another way. Your past does not define who you are. What you've been through, yes, it plays a major part in your character. It's the things that put you together as who you are, but it does not ultimately mean that's who you have to be.
That's right. That's right. That's what we started this channel. Well, it sort of evolved into that, was dedicated towards the youth to listen to other people's stories that maybe they'll be able to relate to it. It'll click with them, and they'll think. That's all I can. I'm not trying to change nobody to do nothing. I just want them to stop and think about the consequences to the actions that they're just about to take, because 10 seconds, your entire life could be changed,
Absolutely.
and it's over. Yeah,
I know guys that don't even remember committing their crime that are doing life sentences.
Oh,
Guys that to
exactly.
this very day will tell you they're innocent, but the DNA evidence that was left at the scene of the crime, the eyewitnesses, everybody that was there will say, "No, buddy, you're not innocent." They completely blacked out and don't remember committing their crime. But you know what? You still do that life sentence. I know
Yep.
guys that broke the law for the first time that are never coming home. You know what I mean? They weren't career criminals. They weren't bad guys. They went out there and in an instant made a bad choice and they're never coming home. Me robbing that guy the night that sent me to prison, the whole act of it was less than 45 seconds. And it impacted his life. It impacted everyone that loved me. It impacted my child. And it took 10 years of my life, 10 years
Yep.
for a decision that any person with a normal brain would say, don't do that. That's stupid. What are you doing? You're getting ready to go rob somebody? What are you, a moron? Like,
Yeah.
And then it really made me look at my friends differently because I come to realize those weren't my friends. Your friends are the ones that are going to say, hey, don't do that. That have your best interest at heart. Anybody that'll be like, come on, let's go. Yeah, you want to rob somebody? Come on. Like that's not your friend. And people tried to, I heard this so much when I came home. Oh, you changed up on us. You changed up. You're damn right I changed up. You're right. I did change. And it's not that I think I'm better than anybody, but you're right. I did change. And sadly enough, a lot of the guys that told me, "Oh, you think you changed? You think you changed?" They're no longer here. They're dead
Yep.
or they're back in prison. And here I sit.
Yep. How long have you been sober for now? Since
November of 2021. Um,
2021.
yeah,
Congratulations,
Congratulations.
man.
bro.
Yeah. And it's hard at times. It's hard. I'm human. I deal with stress like anybody else. And we
Yep.
we have our vices and I want to run to the bottle, but when I make a promise, my dad never kept a promise. That's another thing I take from my childhood is he had made promises and every promise he ever made, he broke. So when I make a promise, it's real. You can take that to the bank, you can bet your life on it. And when I looked at my kids and I promised them I'll never drink again, I live by that. You
That's
know,
amazing.
I'm doing it first and foremost for me. I have to do
Yep.
it for me, but I'm also doing it for them.
Mhm.
So that
Yep.
means there's no sneaking, there's no hiding, there's no, oh, I'll have a drink when nobody's looking. My wife has made it clear, I will pack my shit, I will pack the kids, and we will leave. And you know what? There's nothing out here in this world worth that.
Yep. That's right.
So,
I'll be 9 years sober, June
con-
8th.
congrats,
Thanks,
congrats.
bro.
And what caused you to get sober?
I was addicted. I was addicted to booze. I did pills and I just fell into I got a bad back. I should take this perk. Oh, I'm out of perks. Oh, I should get this. And it just escalated from there. And when you were talking about your deer story, about seeing those deers, I got a flashback in my mind. I'm 2 days sober. I'm at the marina down at the waterfront here, and they have like a summer in the parks, and they have the movie playing on the big projector screen. And I'm sitting there with the family. And I look down at my daughter. She's just really little at that time. She's 3 years old or so, and she's so watching this movie. And I put my hands in the grass and I feel the dew. And I just look
Amazing.
around and I'm seeing things for the first time in 10 years, 15 years. It felt like I was appreciating the beauty and absolutely everything. I started fucking bawling my eyes out. I grabbed
Yeah.
my daughter and I just told her, I just kept on telling her, I love you over and over again. I just,
Yeah, man.
yeah,
This is for I mean, no matter where you're at in life, man, to the people watching, no matter where you're at, what you're going through, it gets better. It gets better. You're gonna have to play a part in it getting better. You're gonna have to fight. If you're dealing with substance abuse, you're gonna have to be sick. But
yep,
choose to do it today. Choose to do it right now. It stops when you stop. Tomorrow's not promised. Tomorrow might be when you say the last time is the last time. Tomorrow might really be the last time. Choose to stop. Choose to have more in life. If you had to anybody that gets high or drinks, if you had all the money that you put into that back, you'd be rich. If you can come up with money like that every single day to get hired, to get drunk, what can you do if you apply that to bills? You apply that to your everyday life, but you do it in a legal aspect. I love this life, man. I don't sit here and pretend to be a good person. I am a good person. I'm a person that made excuses his whole life. I played the victim. I had all these reasons for why I did what I did. And at the end of the day, they were just excuses. Those were choices I made. Am I a good person? Yes, I know I'm a good person. I hurt for others. I love deeply. I love hard. Everything I do, my little boy, he's very grateful. He's a spoiled child, very spoiled, but he's grateful and he knows what he has. And there's no greater feeling than when he comes up and he says, thank you, Dad, for everything that you do, for all your hard work, for this nice house. Like, thank you. That right there means more to me than any amount of money, than any amount of followers, than anything. Just the instant gratification that comes with knowing I'm appreciated and knowing that the life that my children live in no way, shape, or form resembles the life that I lived. They will never fear me. I mean, they know, they know that, who dad is and what dad's capable of if it comes down to it. But they don't live the life that I lived. My son has got, at the age of 5, more Jordans in his room than I ever had. My
Mhm.
first pair of Jordans I bought for myself. We
Yeah.
wore the cheap shoes to school. You know what I mean? The Bobos, we got laughed at and picked on. At 5 years old, my son has a bedroom that's about the size of some people's houses.
Mhm.
And I worked for that. I worked hard for that. I made sure that one of the biggest things I wanted to do coming out was break the cycle. I wanted to help as many people as I could around me and change the lives of the ones around me. And I've done that. I have a senator that lives across the lake from me, a brain surgeon that lives down the lake from me. And then they look over at me, and I know they look over, and I'm the new guy that just bought a house across the way. I'm sure they're like, I wonder what he does for a living. How you doing? I'm an ex-con that owns a construction company and a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like, and then when I talk to people, I was talking to the store owner that's not far from where I live, Indian guy, and he was like he sees the different vehicles I drive and stuff, and we really got into a deep conversation. And he's like, "What do you do?" And I started talking to him. He's like, "I knew I saw you somewhere. I knew."
Nah.
And we're talking. He's like, "You're a nice dude, man. You're a really nice guy." And I was like, "I try to be." Like I look back on my life, and there's a lot of shame. There's a
Yeah.
lot of shame in the things I've done. I've reached out to people. I've tried to make things right. I've apologized. I've tried to right my wrongs. And I lead by example, man. I don't just talk a talk. I walk the walk as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Jay, thank you so much for
I was
coming
gonna
on
I was
tonight,
gonna
man.
say, yeah. I mean, we usually like to end the podcast with you saying something like, a
Oh,
good message. I mean, you're hitting dingers this whole time. The entire
yeah.
podcast is good messages, the good,
Yeah,
bad, and
man.
the ugly. It's not just the, one thing. So we really do appreciate you taking the time and throwing all that wisdom our way.
Hey, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. Like I said, nobody's bigger than the program. Just because I have more viewers than y'all, or more subscribers than y'all, I believe we have the same goal. I think
Yeah.
we all want the
Absolutely.
same thing. We've all somewhat traveled the same road one way or another, and we all want the same. And I'm big on that. I don't
Yeah.
think that, like I said, that just because I see this amount of money from YouTube, or that this many people watch me, that I'm too big. No, you're a YouTuber. I'm a YouTuber. It's I don't like when people do that. Like they start to feel like, well, I'm too big to mess with them, or why would I go over there with that little? No, man, because at one point I was that little channel. At one
Yeah.
point I was that small guy, and I remember, like I said, I'd never had the big interview to this day. I got it out the mud. And I told myself, once I get to a certain level, I'll make sure that I don't act like that to others. Ain't nothing changed about me except the good. I make sure that I stay a good person, even when nobody's watching. And that's what matters, man. And I appreciate y'all having me on. And I think that y'all will go on to do great. Push a positive message. Um, keep bringing guys on that have something to offer the world. We all have something to offer the world.
Yep.
You just have to
Mhm.
figure out what it is.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Jay. Where can everybody find you at?
Man, you already know what it is. Jay Williams, Let's Live Life on YouTube. Also, Jay Williams, I'm Living Life is my second channel, which I'm in the midst of figuring out what I'm gonna do with that channel. Jay Let's Live Life on Instagram, and that's it, man. I love each and every one of y'all, and I appreciate y'all. And if you're out there and you're watching this, it gets better when you choose for it to get better.
Amen to that. Thank you so much, Jay Williams, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Broken Home Podcast. Have yourselves an amazing week. Good night.